Coming up next, awaiting a sentence for former Trump campaign chair Paul Manafort any moment, plus how looking at jury decisions from the past might just teach us something about the present, maybe the future. Don't go anywhere. All right, by the way, sentencing underway right now for former Trump campaign chair Paul Manafort. Prosecutors, they asked for up to 25 years. Manafort was found guilty of defrauding banks and the government, failing to pay taxes on millions of dollars he earned as a political consultant in Ukraine. Manafort lost his bail agreement, went to jail months ago. Since then, his health has declined, forcing him to use a wheelchair. He turns 70 on April 1st. Manafort will receive a second sentence next week. That's from a different federal judge in D.C. That's in connection to the witness tampering and conspiracy charges he pleaded guilty to last year. Well, Bob Clifford is the founder of the Clifford Law Offices. He's in our WGN studios tonight to talk about this and many other things. Bob, good to see you.
Good to see you.
It's been a little while.
Thank you.
Well, I guess just a quick Manafort question. We're awaiting it, but it seems that as much as we may politicize everything, judges do their best not to enter the world of politics.
They really do. If you listen to what this judge has talked about, he's really gone out of his way to tell people he's looking at the evidence that's in this case. He's not being distracted by all the noise that's going on around him. And that's the hallmark of a great judge. And we have a lot more great judges than people give the bench credit for being. They follow the law.
Yeah, and let me ask, speaking of another case, the Van Dyke case here, because as you know, Van Dyke found guilty of all sorts of stuff, including second-degree murder, and the judge gives him less than 7 years, basically throwing out the aggravated battery charges, going with second-degree murder, and then Kwame Raoul's taking it up to the Illinois Supreme Court. They'll hear it next week. My question to you is, and I know your world is primarily in the civil world, but how unusual is it for a sentencing to be taken up to the Illinois Supreme Court and saying, wait, this guy should have been given more time?
Well, as you note, it's common in a civil case for the courts of review to take a second look, but it's less so on a sentencing by the Supreme Court in this kind of matter. So obviously it's caught a lot of attention of the public and the bar that the Supreme Court's taking this up. But that case is so important to this community. It's right that we give it to our highest court to take another look.
And by the way, just so people who understand the power of a court, I mean, everybody's waiting to see if the Supreme Court will throw it out and maybe demand it should have been a tougher sentence, but they do have the power to also make it even lighter than it is, right? Can't they do whatever they want?
They can do whatever they want. Yes.
Okay. I'm not saying they will.
They may be wrong, but they won't be in doubt.
Okay. Okay. Well, I want to talk about something you were just involved in, and it was a project of the National Hellenic Museum. It was a trial. You guys do this every year.
This has been the sixth one.
Yeah. And this year you put Hippocrates on trial. Tell me about that.
Well, Dr. Hippocrates was wrongfully accused of violating his own oath in the treatment of the king of Thebes.
You sound like an advocate.
Well, I was defending him in this one.
There you go.
But seriously, the Hellenic Museum has put together these great historic mock trials, and they're a wonderful way of showing the community the rich history of the Greek culture and of our democracy and the origin of a lot of our laws. This year was the trial of Hippocrates, where he was being accused of giving way to his personal needs by accepting treasures from the king, who he knew he couldn't cure. But he took the treasures anyway, and the son who survived the king didn't like it, thought that he deprived his father of his last good days, and the community was given an opportunity to vote on this to see, it's a perennial discussion that we all have. Would you pay millions and millions of dollars to have a couple extra days of life?
And by the way, I was invited to be a juror in that case.
Yeah.
The show conflicted with that. I couldn't be there. Of course, you'd have won just because, But but let me ask you this. First of all, how did the jury come out in that case? What did the audience decide?
Overwhelmingly in favor of ruling that Dr. Hippocrates followed his oath, did the best he could, but was not guilty of accepting personal gain for attempting to deal with the king. We won.
That's why we brought you in.
Yeah.
Now, I want to talk general about the power of the jury, because you could have presented that to a different jury and gotten a totally different result. Can you in a moment talk about the importance of jury selection and how much of a difference it makes to
Well,
victory?
you know, as citizens, we're all guaranteed the right to trial by jury by our Constitution, the 7th Amendment.
And by our peers.
And by a jury of our peers. And in this particular country, which is very different than the rest of the world, a jury system is one that we entrust. They don't always get it right, but it's the community speaking about what should or should not be accepted of public conduct and in accordance with the rules. We're a nation of the rule of law, and judges tell us the law, Congress tells us the law, and judges enforce that law, and jurors enforce the community's application and evaluation of the facts, determine if whether or not laws are being followed.
Let me just take your personal win or loss out of it. Do juries sometimes just get it wrong, even if it means you win or lose?
They can. I mean, I'd be crazy to say that they don't, but in my experience of 40 some odd years of doing this stuff, if they get it wrong, it's not because somebody tried to get it wrong. Maybe it's a misapplication of the instructions, they didn't understand it. Maybe it's just poor advocacy because lawyers don't do their job in being prepared and giving the jury the right information.
Is it a good thing that the public, you know, Van Dyke trial, we carried it gavel to gavel. Is that a good thing that we're watching those trials, or is it maybe dangerous because we don't know the instructions of law?
Transparency is critical to the community, to know that our public resources are being properly used, to know that justice is being sought and delivered in our court system. I am all for cameras in the courtroom. I think it's important that the public have a right to know what's going on inside our courts and how their resources are being used.
All right. Bob Clifford of the Clifford Law Offices.
Always
Real pleasure to have you here.
Thank
so
you
good
again
to see
for
you.
having me.
Thanks for being one of the best in the city. All right, we'll be right back in a moment.